When we hear the word loneliness, we are often flooded with negative emotions. Human beings are social beings by nature, and for many people, loneliness means isolation, emptiness, and deprivation. The modern world reinforces this perception. Social media, constant communication, and the bonds we form with others instill in us the idea that being alone is a negative thing. However, when properly understood, loneliness offers us the opportunity to get to know ourselves and shape our lives with a deeper understanding of ourselves. Buddhist philosophy sees solitude not as a deficiency or a punishing condition, but as a means to embark on an inner journey. Being alone is an opportunity for the mind to turn its attention inward from the external world. We turn away from external preoccupations and worldly hustle and bustle and face our inner self. This confrontation can be uncomfortable at first because we are left alone with the anxieties, fears, and desires that we have accumulated in our minds. But Buddhism says that this confrontation is the gateway to true freedom, inner silence. In Buddhist philosophy, inner silence is not limited to being in a quiet environment. True silence is making peace with the thoughts, emotions, and worries that the mind is constantly dealing with. This is where the practice of samatha, one of the cornerstones of Buddhist teaching, comes in. Samatha literally means stillness or calmness and refers to calming meditation. The goal is to calm the mind and body and achieve true peace. Being alone can be challenging for many of us at first, because loneliness often brings with it thoughts and feelings that we avoid facing. In Buddhism, however, this is seen as an opportunity. When we are alone, we can isolate from the outside world and establish a deep connection between our mind and heart. This connection helps us to step out of the mental chaos and have a clearer perspective. Buddhist meditation techniques allow us to observe the thoughts that constantly flood our minds. Moving away from the noise of the external world, we embark on a journey into inner silence. This process is not just silencing thoughts, but following the natural flow of thoughts and learning to release them without clinging to them. Becoming aware of this flow in our minds helps us to release emotional and mental burdens that we may not have realized before. As a Buddhist teaching says, silence can be the deepest answer. This teaching emphasizes that silence is not just a void, but contains profound wisdom. In moments of inner silence, the simplest and most effective answers to life's complex questions are revealed. This silence stops our mental clutter and creates a deeper awareness within us. Because in these moments, we can move beyond the constant chatter in our minds and connect with our true selves. Solitude offers us a great opportunity to explore this inner silence. When we step away from the distractions of the outside world, we begin to discover our inner peace. Silence opens the doors to mental clarity. In this process, we can observe the complex thoughts, worries, and desires that our mind is often full of. Facing these thoughts without judging ourselves helps us to develop mental resilience and achieve inner peace. Silence also allows us to get to know ourselves on a deeper level. When we are away from the influence of the outside world, we have a chance to face our true selves. The voices and thoughts echoing in our minds become objects of observation through mindfulness practice. These voices in our minds often reflect our fears, anxieties, and burdens of the past. However, observing these thoughts in moments of solitude allows us to be free from them. In this respect, silence can also be seen as a purification process. Many Buddhist sages state that silence is a great source of wisdom. Silence is not just a moment of pause, but a process in which the mind and heart are in deep harmony, opening the door to true freedom. When we are alone, we internalize this silence and have the opportunity to look at our thoughts, feelings, and even everything in our lives with deeper awareness. In Buddhist philosophy, this practice of silence, one of the most important steps in achieving mental peace, helps us focus on the stillness of our mind in moments of solitude. When we step away from the noise and chaos of the outside world, we begin to explore our inner world. This teaches us that solitude is not a weakness, but rather an empowering experience, letting go of attachments. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is that the root of suffering is tanha, desires and attachments. These desires are strengthened by our attachments to the material world and to people, and often lead us into a vicious circle. Solitude is a unique opportunity to break this cycle and realize the attachments that burden us. When we are alone, we move away from the expectations of others, the standards imposed by society, and the constant outward-looking lifestyle. This process brings us to a deeper awareness, allowing us to discover what we place too much importance on in our lives. Loneliness can often cause anxiety and fear, but when we look at the root of these feelings, they are often rooted in the fear of losing what we have. Our attachment to external factors, such as relationships, material possessions, success, or social approval, inhibits our true freedom. Solitude offers the opportunity to observe and question these attachments. In this process, we realize that we are not defined solely by our possessions or identities. Our possessions are temporary, whereas our inner self is based on a reality beyond them. In Buddhist teaching, the concept of anatta, or no self, suggests that one does not have a fixed self, but is an ever-changing process. In moments of solitude, we confront this teaching. When we stop defining ourselves by what we have or how we appear in the eyes of others, we are one step closer to true freedom. The anatta teaching makes us question our attachments to our individual identities and possessions. Solitude, as part of this inner transformation, teaches us to constantly renew ourselves, to understand the emptiness instead of trying to fill it. As we become aware of our attachments, we begin to ask ourselves, what do I really need? Are these desires freeing me or shackling me? These questions are answered more clearly when we are alone. Buddhism teaches that our possessions don't define us, and that letting them go will help us achieve true freedom. True freedom comes from letting go of dependence on the outside world and finding inner peace. The process of solitude also teaches that what we let go of is not what we lose. Consciously letting go is part of our spiritual growth. Being able to let go of our desires and possessions helps us to release the fears and anxieties that move with them. Solitude broadens our perspective on ourselves and our surroundings. Letting go of the burden of what we don't have and connecting with our own inner nature helps us get to the essence of our life. As Buddhism teaches, solitude is not only a loss, it is also a gain. It is the transformative power of solitude to free ourselves from unnecessary attachments, to reduce our dependence on the outside world, and to connect more deeply with our inner self. This process invites us away from the external world to explore our inner world and become truly liberated. Living in the moment Buddhism places great emphasis on the importance of fully embracing the present moment, and this is most often achieved through the practice of mindfulness. One of the Buddhist meditation methods, Vipassana meditation, is designed to sharpen our awareness and establish a deeper connection with the present moment. Vipassana frees the mind from the regrets of the past and the worries of the future, bringing us face to face with only the now. When we are alone, our mind is often filled with echoes of past experiences and uncertainty about the future. But Buddhism says that the most effective way to reduce this inner noise is to stay mindfully in the present moment. Solitude, in the absence of distractions from the outside world, allows us to more deeply perceive every aspect of the present moment. When our mind gives up its constant desire to change things, we are left with the simple truth of existence. This creates not only a sense of peace, but also a deep inner fulfillment. Mindfulness is a lamp that shines light into every corner of our mind. Practicing mindfulness in moments of solitude offers a great opportunity to raise our level of awareness. When you are quiet, you can focus on your breathing, the sensations of your body, and the small details around you. Feeling the warmth of a coffee cup as you hold it in your hand, noticing the touch of the wind on your skin, or even listening to the chirping of a bird can all be part of a mindfulness practice. These small moments anchor your mind in the present moment and help you find inner balance. Mindfulness allows us to see solitude not as a kind of loneliness, but as an opportunity for deep inner exploration. When we are alone, we are not only physically alone, but also mentally and emotionally alone with ourselves. This process creates the perfect environment to observe how our thoughts, emotions, and reactions work, and to get to know ourselves better through these observations. In this sense, solitude becomes an ideal time to practice focusing on the present moment and calming the mind. We are neither lost in the past nor caught in the vortex of future uncertainties. Mindfulness, combined with solitude, creates an inner awakening and takes us to the depths of existence. In addition, through mindfulness, we can overcome the fear of loneliness. Observing, acknowledging, and accepting our feelings of loneliness without judgment weakens their control over us. Thus, the discomfort of loneliness gives way to peace, and loneliness becomes a space of strength, not a weakness. In those moments when loneliness makes you uncomfortable, mindfulness reminds you of the power of the present moment and offers you the opportunity to live deeply in that moment. The transformation of loneliness. Loneliness is often perceived as an experience that makes people feel disconnected from social relationships, from the bonds they have with others. Buddhist teachings, however, argue that this is not a weakness, but can be transformed into a great strength. Instead of a dark void, Buddhism emphasizes that loneliness is fertile ground where compassion takes root. Developing compassion for ourselves. The first step in Buddhist compassion is to develop compassion for ourselves. For many people, loneliness is a time when inner criticism, self-blame, or feelings of inadequacy intensify. But from a Buddhist perspective, these moments are also the best times to deepen the practice of being kind and understanding to ourselves. To be compassionate with ourselves is to learn to accept and deal with the challenging emotions that arise during solitude gently, rather than fighting and suppressing them. This is where the Buddhist practice of karuna, or compassion, comes in. During solitude, instead of criticizing ourselves, seeing the experience as an opportunity for growth opens the door to inner peace. While solitude may seem to disconnect us physically from others, it is actually an opportunity to make a deep inner connection. As we understand ourselves more deeply in moments of solitude, we can make our connections with the people around us more meaningful. This is not a detachment from the outside world, but rather an inner transformation that allows us to connect more authentically with others. The compassion we develop for ourselves allows us to be more understanding and sensitive to others. In Buddhism, this process makes sense at the point where the inner journey meets the outer influences. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we comprehend the loneliness, suffering, and difficulties of other people. Thus, loneliness ceases to be just an individual experience and becomes a universal understanding. Solitude is actually a great teacher. In Buddhist teaching, solitude is not an emptiness, but rather a process through which we find ourselves, liberated from desires, attachments, and false identities. When we befriend solitude, we find our inner peace and begin to live life with deeper awareness. So, don't see your loneliness as a weakness, but as a source of strength. Because when you're alone, you're embarking on the greatest journey, the journey within yourself. If you are afraid of being alone, reconsider how you can turn loneliness into strength in the light of Buddhist principles. Embrace silence, let go of attachments, increase your awareness, and continue your journey with compassion. Because solitude can be a source of nourishment for your soul. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more content. See you in the next video.